told you I was so scared. I was standing on the top of the of takeoff for like 40 minutes, ready to jump before I actually managed to jump.
If Red Bull high diving is the UFC, death diving is the WWE.
So just looking at this, like what is death diving?
Okay, so you're jumping from a height, a platform, or a cliff or something like that into water, and in the air you want to make it look like you're supposed to belly flop, and you want to hold the belly flop position as long as possible before you hit the water.
The whole idea originated as you're playing chicken with the water, right? So you take a big run up, and then you want to at the as late as possible. That's really important to death diving. Is you want to close. We call it into a shrimp. You kind of punch the water with your hands and your feet at the same moment. And when you close like that, it doesn't really hurt. It feels the same as if you land on your feet.
What got you into it?
If you run off the cliff and you have like a lot of height, that's how, yeah, you get like this flying feeling. And I don't think you get the same kind of flying feeling if you jump feet first. I guess a lot of people do it for the adrenaline. I also do it for like the mastery, because you can imagine it being it's scary. It's really scary. So for me, I guess it's the feeling of overcoming my fears and show to myself that I'm stronger than my fears, I guess.
Where I'm at now in the sport and within the community, I know a lot of the best cliff jumpers and death divers and high divers, right? High diving being like the pointed toes and proper form technique type of
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
Red Bull does. And I think all of them give you about the same amount of adrenaline. I think it really breaks down to what your personality is like. Death diving, one of the judging criteria is actually based off of like how hype you can get the crowd on the platform and like how much attitude and swagger you have. I really enjoy the whole vibe of the competition, not just the actual jump.
It's more judged for the entertainment value than it is technique.
Absolutely. I would say if Red Bull high diving is the UFC, death diving is the WWE.
It seems like a little bit like you're supposed to make this difficult thing look like it's just nothing to you.
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
got this. I completely
hmm
got this.
Already from when you're just standing on the top of the platform before you jump, you'll be like just waving to everybody, chilling. You're not supposed to look bothered at all. Like I could do this in my sleep every day. I'm not even scared. And on the inside of your body, you would be scared, but you're not supposed to show it to anyone because it's kind of a show sport. So it's part of the show. Just if you walk up to the platform and you look down and be like, okay, and you're tense and obviously scared, uh, you don't get the same feeling like watching it. I'm chilling. I don't need to look at the water. I can lift my so I can look at the judges or at the audience, just kind of chilling in the air, having a lot of attitude. Maybe you can point at someone or throw them a kiss. Do something in the air just to show that you're in full control. I'm not afraid. I can just have a lot of steez.
The landing part of it, like I could never quite tell watching some of the videos, like how are you landing? Like what? Because it's so quick at the end, I couldn't figure it out. Like what are you trying to do?
There's three accepted ways to land a death dive in competition. The most common one, like I said, is called the shrimp, which you basically you tuck your head down into your shoulders, you punch forward into the water, and you bring your legs up to try and touch your hands. So you try and close in half. If you know this is your hands, this is your feet. You
Yeah.
try and hit the
Okay.
water like that. The second way is called the bullet or the crusher. It's almost the same thing, but you basically protect your head with your forearms, and you kind of land like this, and you kind of crush into the water. That hurts a little bit more. You'll sting your arms, but it's louder and it gets a bigger splash. And those are two things in death diving competitions that the judges are looking for. And then the third landing, which is somewhat dangerous, and I really only ever do it in actual competitions, is the no-hander. It's where you put your hands behind your back and you just headbutt the water, put your head down into your knees.
And then you want to have a high splash as possible. Uh, and if you're gonna have it like perfect, you get up to the surface quickly so you can get like the rain of your own splash in your own head. And if it hurts, because it might hurt, uh, No one's supposed to know, not the judges or the audience. You'd be like, "Woo, that's exactly what I meant to do. It didn't hurt at all. That was awesome." And you swim in.
But this is not something that like we came up with. People have been landing like this for years. It's just we kind of made it competitive and put some rules to it.
Does that kind of hurt the spirit of it in any way?
That's actually a big kind of conversation within the community. Is there obviously, if you want to be competitive, you have to have rules because you can't just, but if you have too many rules, it becomes high diving or freestyle diving with a funny landing, and then it takes away the spirit of the sport, which is, the personality and the style you bring to it. So it's definitely kind of in the middle. Death diving needs to have some qualifications, but I think that oftentimes the judging is pretty subjective, which does lead to some controversy in competitions because sometimes people just flat out disagree with the judges. But that's what I think makes the sport fun and entertaining is you never know.
How popular is it?
I would say in the U.S. right now, if you ask the average person on the street, maybe 5 out of 10 of them would know what it is if you showed them a video. Because it's pretty popular on like TikTok and YouTube. People have seen it before. But I would say maybe 2 in 10 people would, from the get-go, if I just said, have you ever heard of death diving, would go like, yes, I know what that is. Now, if you go over to Europe, especially in like Norway, every kid at your local pool is doing a death dive.
A lot of people do it in Norway. It's so fun if you go down to just like a swimming place during summer. All the little kids, no one jumps or dive anymore. Everyone just death dives. So it's like a big thing here. Everyone knows what it is. Most people have tried it, and it's growing so fast.
I think death diving right now is kind of what skateboarding was in the 90s. It was kind of something that not that many people were really into, but if you were into it, it was pretty cool. And generally, when someone sees death diving, especially once it gets explained to them, where they're like, okay, this is done intentionally, people usually get pretty stoked on it. I very rarely find someone that just hates it for what it is.
Do you get this sense at all that people are watching it hoping that somebody fails?
I mean, I'm watching it hoping someone fails. There's never a death diving competition where someone doesn't wipe out. To people that are in the diving community, competition height for death diving is really low. It's between 10 and 13 meters usually, which is 35 to 40 feet. In the grand scheme of things, a lot of, high dives are done from 89 feet. Freestyle cliff jumpers will do 100-foot jumps. So a death diving competition, even if you do wipe out, the worst that will happen is you'll have a really bad bruise, or you might get the wind knocked out of you. But it's very rare, if ever, that someone gets legitimately injured in a death diving competition, which I think is some of the fun of watching it, is that like, wow, everybody's probably going to be sore tomorrow.
Does that hurt it from becoming a bigger thing in the sense that, like, it's not that serious?
I think that death diving could find its place in popular culture by being more of a performance art than it is a competition. I think that if you go to a big EDM music festival, you get a big old pool, paint up a bunch of death divers with neon paint, and let them jump off a platform while everyone's listening to some music, I think that would be the type of medium that would secure death diving as something that's a legitimate art form. Because I do agree with you that the ceiling for death diving as competitions go is only so high because of how subjective the judging is, combined with it's kind of silly. Like it's not that deep. And I love death diving. I want it to be the biggest thing on the planet, and I think that there's more potential than we've reached with death diving. I think it could get bigger, but I think you're delusional if you think death diving will ever be in the Olympics, or if it will ever be as big as snowboarding or skateboarding. Just because, one, there's no product to sell, right? You can sell skateboards, you can sell snowboards. I guess you could sell swim trunks, but there's not really a product to sell. And yeah, two, it's really cool to watch, but it's like a circus thing, And I'm not embarrassed to say that. I'm a competitor, so whatever activity I'm involved in, I'm going to do my best to win. But I think that if you're looking at Red Bull or Monster, the people that sponsor really big sports, they probably would see death diving as something that doesn't have as much potential as, insert extreme sport here. I think it has enough potential to have an ecosystem of full-time athletes. I do think that there could be a good group of people that are full-time death divers. But I think in order to do that, there would need to be more events where death diving is incorporated. And I think that it would need to be more than just competition. I think death diving events would need to be, like I said, maybe there's people that death dive at festivals. It's the type of thing that maybe people aren't going to pay money to go specifically see a death diving competition, but I can guarantee you that any person that is walking by a death diving competition will stop and watch it.
Oh yeah, I'd watch it. So put all humbleness aside. Are you the best in the world at it right now?
And it's hard to say because there's so many different things to be good at. You can have like jumping from heights or doing tricks or competition death diving. I would say, like, all humbleness aside, yeah, I would say I'm pretty clearly the best on the women's side. Right now, I won the last 3 world championships.
What do you think makes you good at it? Like, why do you usually win the competitions you're in?
I have already a good like body control from my gymnastic days. But I think what makes me better than a lot of other people is that I'm really good at doing things despite the fact that I'm scared. I I would or I have like a pretty like logical way, I would say, of coping with fear. So I would just ask myself before I do a jump, like, are my surroundings safe? Like, is it deep enough and stuff like that? And then I would ask myself, if it was if I'm not thinking about being scared at all, do I think I physically would be able to do this? Like if I tried? And if I can say yes to both of those things, there's nothing but my head that can stop me. So no matter how scared I am, I've already decided that if I do it, I will manage it. And it's yeah, so there's no reason for me to chicken out. And I hate backing out. So I would, no matter how much I would hate life on top of that cliff, I would still do it because I know that if I walk out of here without doing it when I know that I could have done it, I would not be able to let that go. Like that would be hanging over me and I would not be happy with myself. So I think just my ability to do things when you kind of like, I'm scared at the top, I don't want to jump right now, but I know that I can, and I know that I would be happy when I'm at the bottom.
I understand what you mean in that kind of
hmm
sense. Like the fear of regret is more
hmm
than the fear of failure. I'm
Yes,
more afraid not to do it than I am to do it.
yes. I think I'm just really afraid of feeling like a coward. I hate that feeling.
Are you still scared though every time you do it?
Oh yeah. I mean, every time I'm like not even on like really big heights, I would feel like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this now. But if it's from a height that I've done it from like a lot of time, like 10 meters, for example, it would be a bit scary, but I know that I am gonna do this because I've done this countless times before. There's no reason for me not to do it. So I'm just gonna do it, even though I'm feeling, oh, it's a bit scary. And that's fascinating because like every other thing when you practice, you get better. I realized that doing things despite of fear is actually something you can practice. So now I'm way better at uh, doing something when I'm scared on the top of the cliff than I was like 4 years ago.
Are you ready for some harder / listener submitted questions?
Absolutely.
Does it hurt?
Sometimes. It can. It's like asking if playing football hurts. Sometimes.
What's the most common injury?
Bruises on your arms and legs. I think the most common serious injury is burst eardrums, but when I say common, I'm saying that happens to maybe 4 or 5 guys a year, and there's probably 10,000 people around the world that death dive.
Yeah, like when it's serious, that's what happens. Can you make a living on this?
I think you could if you move to Norway. That's probably the only country that has enough interest in the sport to make it full time.
I am actually like I just started doing it full time myself. There's not a lot of people doing this full time, and it's hard, definitely. Uh, but I don't think I would be able to do it full time if it wasn't for social media. It's like a really social media friendly sport, so I would say like I have some of my sponsors is from like the sport itself. But also most of my income is from social media, I guess.
But I think people know what you mean in that sense, right? And you make a living not just from prize money, but from clicks, so to speak. Highest you've gone from.
30.5 meters. It's 100 feet exactly.
What was that like?
Oh, yeah, I was so scared. Because I also had to jump. It was a spot with a lot of gap. That means I have to jump really far from my takeoff. So the takeoff is here and the water is like here, and underneath it's just rocks, which means I have to jump really far to get to the water. So I guess that was what was freaking me most out. So I was standing on the top of the path of takeoff for like 40 minutes, ready to jump before I actually managed to jump because I was so scared. And I was trying to hype myself up several times to be like, yeah, I'm gonna jump now. I just couldn't make myself start the countdown. And I was in the air for such a long time. I had time to think for so long. And then the impact came, and I was like, okay, here goes. I don't know what this is gonna feel like. Uh, and it was totally fine. Like when I landed it, like all of my other like 20 plus meters has been less painful. No, it has been more painful, I mean. Because now I think it was so much adrenaline. I was so nervous. And I was like, wow, that was like nothing.
Do you think you could go higher?
I think so. I'm not gonna go higher just to go higher. Like I'm not gonna be like I'm gonna beat my record or something like that. But if I'm at a spot that is higher, I could tell from the impact of the 30 meter or the 100 footer that oh yeah, I can definitely like take more impact. So if I'm at a spot and I'm feeling it, I'm stoked, I want to jump, I probably will. But it's not like I'm gonna go looking for somewhere higher to jump just to do it because I think that's when it starts to get scary when people are trying to go higher just to go higher.
The only thing that okay, so like when you were trying to get yourself hyped up to do it, did you ever kind of run up to the cliff like I'm gonna jump and then back out at the last second? Or did you, once you started going, did you go?
I always count down before I jump. It's kind of a trick actually. It's really scary to do the jump itself. It's a little bit less scary to start a countdown. So if I'm really scared, I would start from five. Sometimes I just start from three. But if I start the countdown, it's easier just yelling five than actually jumping. But if I start the countdown is holy. Like I cannot back out on a countdown. So once I say five and everyone starts yelling four, three, two, I know that I'm gonna go on one.
Easiest trick that looks hard, hardest trick that looks easy.
Okay, I actually love this question. I think that I have like a signature trick or a trick that I do really well that looks insane and it's so easy. It's basically a late 360. I run off the platform. When I jump, I kind of turn my body sideways. I reach out and grab my legs. I hold it for a really long time, and I'm looking down at the water. At the last second, I'll flip my body around, so I'll do a twist and then impact. It looks crazy. It is so easy to do. Anyone can do it. But it always scores really well in competitions. I get great scores from that. And then the hardest trick that looks easy, I don't really know. I would probably say like a something with a stall in the middle. So basically you break the trick into two parts while you're in the air. You do the first half of the trick, then you stop your body, and then you do the second half of the trick. There's this guy from Norway who's won like 3 world championships. He's one of the best ever. His name's Kim. He looks great in the air, and he does this trick where he'll do one spin and kind of kick his legs out like this, and he stops his whole body for a second, and then he flicks his legs and spins again. It doesn't look like it would be that hard. I've tried it maybe 100 times. I've never been able to land it. So I'd say something with a stall, a 720 stall would be something that's really hard but looks easy.
I can't think of any other sport that's more like based on showmanship, essentially.
Oh, definitely not. That's why death diving is so entertaining to watch.
Best place. Let's keep this to the United States. Best place to do this at.
Okay, so A big thing with cliff jumping is not giving away the spots, because generally people will go and litter and spread trash everywhere and they won't clean up. So I won't say actual locations, but the best spot in the entirety of the United States to find cliffs at is in Northern California. It's there's so many, like Northern California, where you're at in Washington and Oregon. Just because you're in that Pacific Northwest, you've got a mountain range, you've got tons of waterfalls, you have so many like ravines and gorges, cliffs and things like that. And to everyone watching this, if you're gonna go cliff jump, bring a trash bag, and even if you don't put any trash on the ground, pick up someone else's. We want to keep the cliffs clean so that people see cliff jumping as a good thing.
How deep does the water have to be to do it?
Okay, so for death diving, because basically your whole body hits the water as one piece of meat, one mass, right? You're not like when you look at regular diving, they're tucked really tight and they go 15, 20 feet deep. Death diving, if you jump off of, let's say, 10-meter platform, that's usually our baseline height, so 35 feet. You need maybe 8 feet if you know what you're doing, 10 feet if you're new, but it doesn't need to be that deep for death diving.
What's the holy grail of this? Like, what's the thing, that the trick or the height or whatever that everybody's kind of like?
The holy grail for the average death diver would be winning the death diving world championship. That's like the pinnacle. And as far as winning that goes, the cool thing is tricks are developing every year. So generally, whatever the winning trick was last year is going to be out of style. So there is no holy grail in terms of like there's a trick that everyone is trying to get to. Right now, because of how new death diving is, the holy grail is to come up with a trick no one else has done before. Because it's so new that you can do that pretty regularly. Like most people in death diving who have done it competitively have at some point come up with a trick that no one else has ever done.
When do you start getting like, at what height is like, all right, that's getting up there?
For me, I would say 20 meters, which is again like 66 feet, is kind of when it starts to go from like it could sting to you could get hurt. But generally, I would say to anyone that's thinking about trying this, learn it at 15 to 20 feet. Once you're comfortable with the technique, go up to 30 to 40 and stay there for like a year.
What's your worst injury?
I haven't really gotten a lot of injuries from death diving. My worst one is when I was actually trying to land on my feet, so that wasn't death diving at all. But I got like a heavy whiplash, and I've been struggling with my neck a lot for almost 3 years now. So that's been really bad, but that was not from death diving. That was from cliff jumping. So
oh my
this is some of the bruises I get. And
dude, what are you doing every day?
That's when I busted my eardrum. It's just me flopping a lot in every possible. Like I've tried a lot of things.
Yeah, are you good at this? I mean, everybody's fail reel looks like this, right? Where you're wondering, like, man, you really go for it, though, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I usually try to send it.
Does that
It does not happen every time. No, definitely not
Okay,
every time.
okay.
That is from like when I flop, but I flop a lot, fail a lot. But it can happen if I have like a landing very close, just like not very much.
That's the 100-foot jump, huh?
Yeah, so you can tell like it's like a
Whoa.
big gap that I have to jump out.
Wow, that's far.
And you can see
That's
the
really
next
high.
clip is it's high. This is in like real time, so you can tell like I have a lot of air time.
Oh, I see what you mean about that left side, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
close, but it's close
But
at
it
the
feels,
same
and you're like
time.
following it down
Yeah.
all the way, and it's like kind of like claustrophobic. That
Yeah,
was
that was cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can see that like that's you think about it, you're like, oh, it's 100 feet, 30
Mhm.
meters. Then you see it and you're like, oh,
Mhm.
that's a lot. That's pretty far.
Yeah,
That's pretty far.
it
Wow.
is. You could definitely land that one dry, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of the end of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's pretty, like, that's impressive. How did you decide on that pose? Did you think about the pose for a little while? Like, what am I going to do?
That
How
is
am I going
like
to pose
my
it?
kind of like my signature pose, I guess. I just had to go for something that I knew I could do, and it was like I couldn't like try something new, some new pose or something. This is a competition in Utah. I actually won this competition, and it was like mixed class. So I was like
Oh, you beat
really,
everybody, huh?
yeah, I was really proud of myself for winning that. You have usually three jumps, and one of them has to be classic, like the second jump I had there, and then the final jump is what counts.
This is the original spot that me and my buddies built to practice. That tree has since fallen down, but this was one of the last times we got to jump it before it fell.
So you're trying to just pause as long as possible.
Yes. There's two types of death diving. Freestyle, which is what you're seeing here with spins and flips, and then there's classic, which no flips allowed, no spins. That's all about the attitude. So if you see someone doing something like that, we call it a freestyle death dive. And if you see someone doing like that, that's me, that's a classic death dive.
Is one kind of looked at being as more pure or more popular or whatever word you want to use than the other?
During competitions, they will have a round of freestyle and then a round of classic. So both of them are equally as important. The freestyle is more to show the athleticism, and the classic is more to show that you understand the basics of the attitude behind it.
So, okay, if you were to kind of put a number on it, you've got to prepare for the landing how many feet before you hit the water?
5 is probably when I start closing. The saying is you try and hit the water harder than it hits you. So I'm not fully closed until my hands are hitting the water. I'm not braced for impact. I'm actually trying to close as I hit.
But if you screw that timing up,
That's when it starts hurting. Is especially in competitions, the judges are looking to see if you close too early. So oftentimes in competitions, people opt to just not close at all, or close 2 feet above the water and just take the pain. Because generally, if you close the right way, if you close late, the only thing that's going to get slapped are your shins. So we generally just take some leg slaps during competitions.
so you got to just be prepared for some pain.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. When you go into an actual death diving competition, just be ready to be sore the next day. And it's part of the fun. Everyone knows that, like, okay, it's going to be rowdy.
I understand that. Like, there's something about, like, I like to go snowboarding, and if I come back not a little sore, I don't feel like I went snowboarding.
And it's not for everyone. I don't think that death diving has to be universally accepted, but I think that the people that want to get into it should have an outlet to explore it.
That's pretty much all the questions I have, man. Is there anything that you think we missed, or how can people kind of find out more?
I would say, so I actually just, this last Tuesday, released a documentary about death diving. It's on YouTube. You can go, it's one of my main sponsors is a brand called Impossible. They're just like a holistic alternative to energy drinks. They have like healthy supplements that are good for energy, good for sleep. So if you go to, it's on YouTube, if you just look up Impossible Death Diving, it'll be the first thing that pops up. And it goes really in depth into the process of death diving, from finding the spot to checking the water depth to making sure it's safe. It's more than just the cool clip. It's the full thing.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and on YouTube. I do a lot of like longer videos on YouTube too, or I'm gonna make more of them at least. And I post a lot of my jumps on both YouTube and Instagram. My name is really hard to remember, but it's Asbjorg_N. So yeah, it's the same on YouTube and on Instagram.